Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community, we were to go racing with C-Class SUVs. Our first race at the Catalonia National Circuit. This Audi Q7 that we are following at the moment, very quick in a straight line. As you can imagine, not quite so good through the corners. Is trying to fend off one of the international scouts, while another one, it does quite a lot look like a bathtub. The Scout, when you look at it from behind, certainly with the roof off, it kind of looks a little bit like a bathtub. Either way, it was a very fast bathtub as it was there leading the way. The Q7 doing his best to try and fend off the Scout behind. In fact, the Scout would get in trouble with a Cadillac Escalade having a look, trying to find a way past. So the big Cadillac would get the move done before the hairpin, of course. Some of the SUVs in this were pretty damn powerful and in turn quite fast down the straight. Some of them were more handling-based vehicles, like my Touareg, for example, were much better through the corners, but in turn did suffer when it came to the straights. There's a few others, a Land Rover Defender around as well, that was very quick in the turns, but just had very little in the way of straight line speed, which meant that through half the lap I was under quite a lot of threat. The Jaguar F-Pace, in fact, wasn't the fastest car here in terms of straight line speed. There was a Mercedes ML that you can see behind that was very quick down the straights, a big handful through the corners. I could carry decent corner speed, but in terms of trying to fight with the Jaguar F-Pace here, not quite enough. The F-Pace had a little bit too much grip through the corners for me to be able to go straight around the outside. Now, I could keep close with it as we head up towards the top of the hill. I could keep close, I could carry good speed through here, but it's so difficult to get any overtaking done around this part of the track, and I get things wrong into the chicane, which is not what you want to be doing. Put myself out of position quite a lot. There's another F-Pace here, keen to have a look to try and find a way past. I will defend this one into the hairpin. We get a little bit connected as I get someone to steer out of the corner. Very nearly ends up in a disaster. Thankfully, we all get away with it. I apologise to the F-Pace a little bit there. Yeah, when the front of your car and the front of the other person's car and the sort of the rear quarter panel of yours get stuck together, very difficult to pull the vehicles apart. At the front of the field, a black and green F-Pace had made his way up into second place, but that was only held briefly as a Scout would breeze past. And, well, the problem with the field being so bunched together is if you get stuck in a little bit of a bad position, you can get mugged, which was going on to this poor F-Pace. Out of place through the chicane, and, well, got swamped by a G-Wagon by a Q7. The Cadillac gets a little bit too much speed. Q7 gets a big sideways moment. The poor Jag is just stuck with nowhere to go. Up goes another F-Pace to the inside. I am not that far behind there with my Touareg. Land Rover Defender is coming to join in. I'm trying to squeeze my car alongside as we go into this final chicane. Very narrow through here. The F-Pace just about gives me space on the inside. I get the run with the Touareg to move myself up a position. The Mercedes further back is trying to get past the Defender. Can't quite keep it alongside, but will have the straight line speed. I've now got to defend. I'm aware of these Jaguars' straight line speed. I'm also very aware of how fast that Mercedes is coming as we go down towards the first corner. It's 3 wide into turn 1. Now, I know the brakes on the Touareg are good here. We bump. We try to do our best not to run over each other too much through the first quarter. The F-Pace runs a wheel across the grass, can't quite hold it. I would come out the best in all of that, just managing to fend off that Mercedes. Mercedes got this mega run up towards the top of the hill, but he knows he's not going to be able to have a dive up the inside, and because we're both so compromised, the F-Pace fights back. He's around the outside at a very quick corner, had a wheel on the grass through all of that, but he did make the move, stick through there to get the place back from that Mercedes. Back towards the front, the Escalade was holding on relatively well in this particular group, while the 2 Scouts were running away with this at the front. The G-Wagon was just about clinging on to third place, coming under increasing pressure, though, from the vehicles behind. The F-Pace and Escalade looking for ways past, although both carrying way too much speed around the final corner, both taking a trip to the sand trap. Land Rover Defender would get the pair of them. Defender was actually doing very well for a car that really struggled with any sort of straight line speed. It was so quick through the turns, it was making good lap time. This actually brought me up into this little group as well. As I said, at the front it was very straightforward for the Scouts. This white one would lead basically from the off, and there was very little anything the rest of us could do. The Scout in second place was setting similar lap times, but had such a disadvantage, wouldn't be able to catch up. So fairly, in many ways, fairly straightforward 1-2 for the Scouts. Yeah, these turn out to be really, really rather quick vehicles. Further back, the closest to finishes would be the battle for third place. The G-Wagon had done a fantastic job of holding on to that third place for so long. A big, big slide out of the hairpin was not what the Mercedes was wanting while we were busy fighting further back. The F-Pace was a very, very quick vehicle, actually. It was certainly holding its own, and with the Mercedes just struggling to take any corner speed, the Jag would be able to draw alongside and get the pass done before they get to this very technical final section, although the Jag had to be wary. The Mercedes was incredibly fast in a straight line. The Jag had to get far enough away that the Mercedes couldn't come flying past down the straights. Fortunately for the F-Pace, the Mercedes, asks too much through that final corner. Just try and carry a bit too much speed, ends up out across the gravel, would lose out to the defender, only just mine, but the defender would get the position. So that is our podium blazer, with the Scout in first, Henkix in second, with the second of the Scouts, and Time to Die Zombie in third. We move on to the second race. Unfortunately, no replays for this because they were all broken, so it's on board with my Volkswagen as we head to the Bugatti circuit. Hummer didn't get off the line. As you can imagine, the Hummers might struggle a little bit. There's a little bit of a bop between an F-Pace and a Wagoneer. Very, very nearly sends my Touareg into a big spin. Managed to hold it along the outside up ahead. Don't know what happened in the melee of cars. Unfortunately, one Touareg, I think it was a Touareg, something got spun and spat out the wrong way at the chicane, which is a little bit of a shame. Everybody else, though, making it through that first section okay. My Volkswagen on the outside. Oh, we also did have, you'll see a white Scout on the inside of the track, that a lot of people couldn't see his car inside the lobby. I was one of the lucky few that could see his vehicle, but he had a tough time with a lot of people just not being able to see his vehicle. I tried to go around the outside of an F-Pace, which was not really the best of ideas. The Jaguar, much, much better, really, than my Touareg. A Hummer was causing a little bit of mayhem. There was a Grand Wagoneer on the inside of me that I had very little idea. That Jeep was on race tyres. It had horrendous grip through the corners. It could really catch you out. But nothing in terms of straight line speed. I never expected there to be a car. We had a little bit of a bump. We got away with it. Somehow I went round kind of the outside of about two vehicles and lived to tell the tale. Out the other side, yeah, I wasn't quite so sure how that was going to end up. The Scout that was off on the grass through sort of turn 2, turn 3 was catching to the back of me with its just ridiculous straight line speed. The Scouts were so unbelievably fast in a straight line. Very difficult to drive. They were often going up onto 2 and 3 wheels around corners. They were not particularly fun-looking cars to drive, but so quick down the straights that, yeah, they could make up some serious lap time. I was preferring my Touareg here at the Bugatti circuit, making kind of steady progress through the field. Oh, there's a lagged out vehicle on the start line, because of course there was. Came up against an Audi Q7 around the outside at the final corner. The Audi, again, going to be fast down the straights, but it is very big and very heavy, even in a field like this. Probably only the Hummers are heavier than it, so was always going to struggle through the corners. I knew it was going to be a little bit dicey heading up towards turn 1 here. The Audi wanting to draw alongside, but doesn't really have the grip or the brakes to fight that one. So as we head into the chicane, I would get the pass done cleanly. A Jaguar F-Pace would follow suit in all of that one. Unfortunately for me, things will take a bit of a downward spiral. I got a slight tap and got fired off the road at the fast kind of second chicane. That would dump me back down the order, and the rest of my race would be spent, well, catching back up to the Q7, and then when we kind of caught the Q7, I got caught by the Scout. The stupidly fast Scout in a straight line was trying to recover from being bopped off by everybody that couldn't see his car, and yeah, it was so quick down these straights that there was really very little in the way of answer I had for that car. I thought about going defensive, no real point. The Scout's so quick, he'd catch me very nearly caught the Q7, although it's a bit of a handful through this chicane. Couldn't get anything done in terms of passing the Audi, and it's just a little bit slow on the exit. Still nothing something that I can do here. But he's being slightly held up now by that big Q7, and that gives me an opportunity. I can make a nuisance of myself. It's really kind of compromise the Scout as much as we can through the corner, just around the outside, and I will be on the preferred line. We can kind of even box the Scout in as we head up towards these final couple of corners, and I can carry a lot more speed around here than the Q7 can. Fortunately for me, the Scout asks way too much of his car and goes for a trip across the gravel. Also, the grey Touareg behind us was one of the cars that couldn't see the poor Scout. I was then stuck on the outside as we headed on to the final lap here of the Q7, knowing I needed to get a pass done now. I couldn't afford to lose time through the corners. It is around the outside of turn 1 to throw it up the inside into the chicane, make sure we get the vehicle stopped, cover the insides where I can, defend as best as possible from that Q7. And it would do the job. It would do the job for now. And we came into the more twisty sections where my Touareg was going to be stronger than the big, heavy Audi. As we came towards the end of that, I was actually catching a few of the vehicles ahead. At okay pace in the Touareg. Okay pace. Not the fastest car here, no, but decent enough. Again, I knew I needed to be far enough clear of the Scout. I managed to overdrive it into this kind of final double corner. Very nearly got me into a lot of trouble running wide on the way in there. But the run to the finish line is relatively short, and that would be enough for me to take a 9th place. Also, for the cool-down lap celebration, someone go for a roll up ahead and managed to fire there. I think it's a Q7 into the air off a tyre bundle. Very close between me and the Scout, but bonus points for the style. At the front of the race, F1 Kieran would take victory with a Jeep Cherokee, THR Aston Ash in second with an F-Pace, and Static Sheep in third with a Land Rover. An interesting mixture of cars, actually, in that Bugatti circuit race, scoring strong finishes. Our third and final race would head to Maple Valley in the pouring rain. This, reminiscent of one of the more infamous versus the communities back on Forza 4, SUVs around Maple Valley, is to date the lowest number of finishes. Only 2 cars made it to the finish of that race due to vehicles rolling out. Now, that was never likely to be as much of a problem here on Forza 7. The curbs are nowhere near as mean. Nowhere near as mean at all around here, but I included this one just for nostalgia's sake, basically. There was a little bit of unfortunate shenanigans. I think it was an F-Pace got fired off the circuit by a Scout, the Scout waiting up for the Jag. Otherwise, most of the cars making it through relatively well at the start. The F-Pace that we are following here, making things 3 wide down the back straight, managing to get up the inside of a Hilux, almost comes under threat from a G-Wagon down towards the next turn. While this circuit is a very, very quick course, it's also got a lot of fast corners, so vehicles like the G-Wagon, while it will be fast in places, likely to struggle through these sort of long, fast turns. My Touareg was never likely to be happy here. It's not got anywhere near enough power to be truly competitive. At the end, for me, someone would crash around this final corner, bounce out into traffic, and take me out with them. So I had a dull race in this one. I'm very glad that the replay works. Otherwise, you'd not be seeing much. Up at the front, a Scout was already running away with things early on. The Scout that we are riding on board with here would spot an opportunity to sneak up the inside into turn 1. The Jeep just not able to quite get the car to the inside. A good pass from the Scout to move up a position. There was something on the outside, I think it was a F-Pace, that tried to carry too much speed, and it is very easily done at Maple Valley, especially in the wet, in cars you might not quite be used to, and yeah, just carrying a bit too much speed and go escaping off the outside of the course. The Hiluxes that had turned up for this third race, actually surprisingly fast vehicles. They did not have much in terms of straight line speed, but with some huge tyres, they could really carry some good quarter speed. And when they're not jellified, yeah, they were not doing too badly. It's 3 wide through turn 1 and up towards the second corner, and the Hilux would be able to make up the position. Unfortunately, I think the F-Pace and Jeep got a little bit connected, the poor F-Pace ending up bearing the brunt of that one. Probably trying to go around the outside. And again, it's the whole front of one car getting connected on the rear of another. Now, as I said, the Hilux very, very quick through the corners, but the Jeep was going to be able to out-drag it and manage to make a little bit of a gap. Make it difficult for the Hilux to sort of fire back immediately past. Still the Toyota having a look. They've got another Hilux in there for company. There's a couple of S-Paces and a G-Wagon a little bit further back, but the scouts were long gone at this stage. You can just about see second place in the distance. The scouts were far superior to the rest of the vehicles around here. It's a good exit from the Hilux. They go underneath the bridge. Still not quite able, again, the Jeep's straight line speed able to pull it along. However, once more, it's these long corners, these long unforgiving corners that would be the struggle, really, for the Jeep. The Hilux just able to maintain more corner speed and get the pass done, and it wouldn't be long before the other Hilux would find a way past. Now, speaking of Hiluxes, and, well, speaking of rolling, really, as I said, the curbs here nowhere near as bad as they were back on the good old days of Forza 4. That being said, some of the Hiluxes were having a few issues. Of course, yeah, not jellified. This particular one, though, had suffered a bit of damage, and broken suspension can cause a lot of issues in terms of having vehicles roll over. So, a few close calls, some scary two-wheel moments. You see the steering is not particularly happy on said Toyota, but yeah, nobody would go over during the race. The Cherokee would start to really back up the pack behind him as a group of F-Paces were looking for ways past, very nearly going too wide around the final corner. The red one deciding the better idea in all of that was to have a little bit of a lift. You don't want to be going too wide through that final corner. It is a scary, scary place indeed. The Jeep continuing to try and defend, but it just didn't quite have the pace of the Jaguars. Runs a little bit wide. I say runs a little bit wide. Was trying to defend. The Jaguar goes for a cutback on the exit. Just gets a better line out of the corner. Even with a big slide from the white F-Pace, he would be past as it still continues to slither and slide its way around. There's another Jaguar up the inside of the Jeep. And to be fair, this was about the most exciting group at this, well, I say at this point, throughout most of the race. The Jeep gradually falling back was probably the most battles that went on. At the front, it was once more plain sailing for the Scouts. Very, very quick around this circuit. While I imagine quite a handful to drive, their straight line speed was so phenomenal, so much quicker than the rest of us that we just didn't have an answer. They were absolutely miles quicker. Even if, you know, vehicles hadn't been stuck in traffic, nothing really stood too much of a chance of getting near the Scouts, and it would once more be a Scout 1-2. Third place would go to a Hilux, and surprised, I wasn't expecting them to do so well, but yeah, third would go to a Hilux who managed to roll it on the cooldown lap. We have to have these cooldown laps because otherwise the replay's cut off the second you cross the finish line. Not really thinking about it, yeah, the Hilux managed to go for a tumble, the Cherokee managing to collect said Hilux. Good thing he didn't do it in the race, because that is not a place you want to have a rolled vehicle. The podium, I had to freeze frame it because I managed to skip through it by accident while recording. Invisible AK would take victory with the Scout. Henkicks in second with the other Scout. Please Don't Hate Me was fourth, as it was Impega that got third, but managed to roll his Hilux and break it, so couldn't cross the finish line. But there we go. Yeah, the SUVs were good fun. My Touareg wasn't as good as I'd hoped it would be, in honesty. I knew I'd gone for a more handling kind of build, handling orientation with this car, and while it was fairly good at Catalonia, was okay at Bugatti circuit, in the end it just wasn't fast enough. It just wasn't quick enough to compete with some of the other vehicles. Yeah, the Scouts were stupid fast, but I don't think I had the speed of the Jeeps, certainly of the Hiluxes and of the F-Paces. I just didn't stand a chance against those. I still quite like the Touareg, but yeah, didn't quite work out so well for me. Still had some fun though. Still had some good close racing. That was going to be it for this week's Versus the Community. Next one is going to be held on Thursday, the 9th of November. We are going to go racing with cars from the Showroom Rally division. Now, we are not building the cars to the division spec. We are just using cars from that particular division, the Showroom Rally one. They are going to instead be built to B class. So, if you want to sign up and take part in that, you can via our forums. There'll be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and you can sign up in there. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.